Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 10th episode at Ruby India. Ruby India brings together curated content from and for the Indian Ruby community and friends. We do a regular newsletter highlighting content from the people in the community. One of the aims is to highlight people and their work, which has also led us to the start of this podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us from Stockholm, Arun Agarwal, who doesn't need much of an introduction. So I'll hand it over to Arun so he can tell a bit about himself and start with our interview.
Yeah, thanks, Ripple, for inviting me for the call. It's really nice here to talk about myself and talk about Ruby community at this platform. I really like how you guys doing Ruby India and especially doing the podcast and newsletter. I really appreciate that effort. I really like it. Thanks a lot for that.
Thanks.
So yeah, I can tell a little bit about myself, maybe. Yeah. So I'm a developer at Thoughtbot. I work at Stockholm office. We have other offices in US, but we have one office in Europe, which is in Sweden, Stockholm. It's a really nice city. I'm liking it here. So I'm working with Ruby since 2007, and the good thing is that I've started programming only with Ruby. Like, I have not done any programming before Ruby, like in .NET and in Java. Even though in my college life, I've done computer science and engineering, but I've never been introduced to programming before Ruby in 2007 in my first job. So that was the cool part with me to work with Ruby.
Where did you start with?
So I was about to join my family business, but one of my cousin brother asked me to come to Delhi, and he wanted to work me for one of his friends' startup. So there was a company, they were based out in Delhi, and they were doing some social network website, social networking application in Ruby on Rails. So I just joined them as a developer trainee, and I learned a lot of things there. And after 6 months, I stopped thinking going back to my family business at all. Like, I thought, no, this is the way I need to go, and I should just go into Ruby on Rails and programming field.
The company is still there right now?
No, so they stopped in Delhi, but I think they are in US somewhere, but they renamed themselves, and a lot of things happened in the last 7-8 years. So, yeah.
Right. And so after that.
Yeah. So after that, basically, so I worked with them for 6 months because I was a developer trainee, and then I got another opportunity in Gurgaon. Then I worked with them for a while, and then I moved back to my hometown, which is Jaipur, Rajasthan, and where I worked with a company called Rising Sun Technologies for 2.5 years. And there I learned a lot of things. And then after that, I moved to Bangalore for one startup to work with. And then I made one decision to work with a big company. So I joined a management consulting firm as a backend developer or as an application developer, and I worked with them for a year. And after that, I just applied to Thoughtbot, and right now I'm here, basically.
So all through this, you continuously worked on Ruby and Ruby on Rails?
Yes, basically I just like from last 7-8 years, I'm just doing Ruby on Rails. I work a bit of JavaScript and stuff, but that's not, I don't count them as my profession right now.
So that's about 8 years of experience that you're speaking about.
Yes, from 2007 till now.
Wow, that's great. And so you're involved a lot in, like from the beginning, you were involved a lot in the open source projects also. And you started with, like, you were contributing to Mongo adapter and Rails. So maybe you can shed a light on those.
Yes, actually, yeah. So I was not initially into that, like into open source paradigm. Like, I was not doing anything, not much things into open source world. But when I moved to Bangalore, I met a lot of people who basically like open source people, and they're like they contribute to open source a lot. And I saw, and then I got introduced to open source world, like, oh, here you should do, and here is the thing how you contribute and stuff like that. So initially I was doing some RVM thing. I think the first commit in my open source was RVM. I was upgrading. I wanted to have latest version of Ruby that time, and I contributed back to RVM so I can have latest Ruby version. Something like that happened, and my patch just got accepted, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is the thing. It's really cool. This is how you should give back to community, and this is how you should be doing. You're spending your investment time in open source. So then I tried helping in MongoID. It's a MongoDB adapter written in Ruby. So I helped a little bit in that, but I was not be able to like come up with the new features and stuff. So I dropped off from that. In the meanwhile, I started looking into the Rails core thing. So I was building one app in JRuby, and I found that small thing was broken in JRuby in Rails for that specific part was broken in Rails for JRuby. So
Right.
I thought let's just patch it and see if this patch get accepted or not. And that got accepted. Then I was like, okay, yeah, this is the thing I should be doing now. So then I started contributing in Rails. First, I was trying to make things happy with JRuby because I was working on a JRuby project that time. And yeah, later on it goes and goes. Then I was trying to help cleaning up stuff like docs and sometime, and I started commenting on GitHub about pull requests and issues and stuff like that. Then Rails core team basically created this issues team in which you can manage issues and you can review pull requests. You cannot merge, but you can do a lot of things. So I became part of that. So that's how I introduced to Thoughtbot, basically, because I saw a lot of projects from Thoughtbot that I wanted to contribute, and I wanted to work with Thoughtbot for that. Like, okay, yeah, this is the place I should go and work with these people who make a lot of these open source projects like Paperclip, Factory and like a lot of open source projects. You can see them on GitHub. So yeah, and I basically just applied at Thoughtbot in 2013. Yeah, 2013. Oh no, 2012 actually. And then yeah, I came here. And
when did you move back to Bangalore?
I don't remember the exact year, but I worked for 1 year, 1.5 years in Bangalore. I think it's 2010. I was in Bangalore, and yeah, the good part was Bangalore. Like I was involved in Bangalore Ruby community. I still own few things from Bangalore Ruby, like domain names and stuff, because I don't get a chance to transfer them. But there was a cool part that I was involved with the people who runs Meetup and stuff, which is the good part.
Nice. And how do you see the changes in community across all of these places that you have worked on? And how are the communities, because you have moved a lot around in India, how do you see the communities?
Yes, absolutely. So initially when I worked in Jaipur, there was not like very big community for Ruby and Rails people. It was just us, I think 8 or 9 people working with Ruby. So we really don't need to have a meetup or like a hacking stuff there. It's just with the same company and the same people we meet in office. But when I moved to Bangalore, I introduced to meetups, and that was a cool part. Then this whole thing gets started like I should do a meetup, and I should meet people. I should learn from them. I should teach them like this is how you should do. Then we also did some Rails hackathon, I think, on few of releases to make like bug mash and stuff. Yes, and that was a cool part. But for some reason, I just moved to Gurgaon. Then everything actually stopped because personally, I think there are a lot more community in Bangalore compared to Gurgaon and Delhi. It's my personal opinion. I don't know what's the current scene right now, but I think there are a lot of more community and Rails people, Ruby people around in Bangalore, and they are more willing to come to meetups and stuff, so which
Right.
is cool. And in Stockholm, there are people. We have meetups. I think 2 meetups every month,
Mhm.
and Thoughtbot organizes them, and they're basically not on the weekends, so people can come after work basically on. So it's pretty cool in Stockholm as well. But nowadays, I see that these things are happening a lot on every place. For example, in Pune or in Bangalore or even in
Right.
Delhi, people actually do meetups and talk about just not Ruby. People talk about a lot of things in meetups, and which is great. I mean, I like that thing. And to help to stay connected with these people, because I'm in Stockholm right now and working here, I created this Slack channel, and you are also part of that.
Yep.
Basically, it's a Slack team where I have my Ruby friends from India, basically, and I can still be connected with them, and I can still be in touch
So,
with them and say, yeah,
uh,
which
can you
is really cool.
can you just uh, can you just spell out the domain name for other people who can join?
Yeah, sure. It's ruby-rockers.slack.com, but you can actually mention me on Twitter or just ask Whipple or somebody you know in Ruby community. They will just add you
Yeah.
into that team if you're interested. And I think it's a good place. It just started because I was talking with my wife, and she's also a Ruby programmer. One night, like I wanted to connect with people, but yeah, Twitter is one place you can connect with people. Facebook is one place you can connect with people. But I want a specific thing to have. So I just created that. I contact Pratmesh, like, do you want to help me? And then it just gets started. And I feel really good about that.
Yeah, there are 150 plus people over there
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
which are actually active. Uh, in the later like when you were leaving, I think you also used to attend the Jaipur events, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. So yeah, this is
How
this is
I think
one thing
it's
is pretty
starting
cool.
to get. Uh, can
Yes.
you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I was visiting my parents in Jaipur, I think last year, and
Mhm.
I attended Jaipur Ruby group meetup, and I talked with people there, and they're like super cool, and they are doing good stuff in Jaipur as well. So I'm really proud of myself now, like because I'm from Jaipur only, and I have done my college, engineering, everything in Jaipur. I've never been outside from Jaipur when I was like 22. The first time I left Jaipur was when I was 22. So that was pretty good, and I felt pretty good about that. That company is still running, and they have a lot of good people working on Ruby on Rails, good amount of JavaScript work as well.
So uh, if you follow along with that community over there, it's expanding right now.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. Uh, and what I mean, this is just like trying to bring about what similarities or differences we have in what you see the differences between the Indian Ruby communities and what do you see a change in Stockholm? Something that we could use over here
Yes,
in India or help that would help us out.
absolutely. So the major thing which I found is basically we do meetups on, like, people in India
Yeah,
basically,
weekends.
like, we used to do meetups on weekends, but here people actually do meetups on weekdays basically. So you don't want to spend your weekends as well writing code with other people. But I mean, it's totally up to their thing because mostly people in India are
Yeah.
working late nights and
India,
stuff, so they can't.
right? And in India, commute is a very big
Yeah,
problem.
commute is a very big problem, and people have other stuff to take care of the nighttime, so they really can't come. Other than that, I think in Stockholm specifically, we have some kind of like performer, you can say. So we have two events. One is basically just a meetup where people come, present, and just talk, eat, and go. And another is hack night, which is people just come and hack in groups. And in that, people do not present. It's just hack night. So people try to come up with something, or if they want to contribute on any open source or anything, they just do that.
Hmm.
So these type of like two meetups go together, like every 15 days one come. So 1 month, two meetups. This is the good pattern I think people can follow instead of mixing stuff. So you get to know what people want. People want hacking, or people want listening other people as well.
The
So this is
the hack nights. I mean, I've heard a lot about those, but what kind of pattern do they have, and how usually how long do they usually take place, and what kind of attendance do you see for these events?
yes, absolutely. So usually the hack nights took like I think more than 2 hours, 2.5 hours,
Okay.
and people are really enjoying those things because you work for 15 days on you're working on something for 15 days and you got into some trouble, you collect your ideas. So for example, I'm working on a special thing, a new thing, which is
Uh-huh.
which is very complex. So hack night is a place where you talk with other people and say, hey, I have this problem, do you know any of the solution? So on hack nights we also do stand-ups and stuff. So people
So
just gather around, people just sharp at 6. We'll do stand up at 6:10, grab your beer, grab your fuel, whatever you want, 6:10 stand up, and then people divide into group. So everybody comes with an idea. I have it. So for example, I have this AWS problem I want to solve. So everybody comes with the idea, and then they group each other like, okay, yeah, I will help you in the AWS. I will help you in this thing. And
great idea.
few people are just there to learn Ruby and stuff. So we recently started this course called Intro to Ruby on Rails, in which it's just like you can come and there are like specific people who
Uh-huh.
teach you Ruby on Rails.
That's it.
Basically,
That's
just
from
the introduction.
Thoughtbot, right?
Yeah, that's also Thoughtbot is a part of that as well. Is sponsoring few parts for that meetup, and yeah, I mean people are it's turned out really great. Like hack nights usually go around with 30 people in Stockholm.
Wow,
Stockholm is not a very
that's a
big
lot.
city, so and
That's a lot.
events meetup like the presentation nights. We call it presentation night, which is
Uh-huh.
just a meetup and people present there. Usually the same number, 25 to 30. And install fest like introduction to Ruby on Rails and those kind of events. Those are not really meetups; those are events. Are really good. They're like I think we got like 45 or 50 people one event like on the install fest. Like people wanted to install Ruby on Rails and like just boot up what is Ruby and stuff like that, which was pretty good.
Those are pretty. Those are pretty good numbers.
Yes.
And compared to what we see around in our communities.
Yeah.
Uh, cool. So, and what experiences have you seen around with you mentioned about these events in Stockholm, but what experiences did you have or see with the communities in India? Like, what all different events did you see and experience in India?
Mm, I mean, like experience. What should I talk about? I don't know.
Workshops, meetups, or what all different events did you see around in the Indian community?
Yeah. So the problem with me is like I started doing these things when I was in Bangalore,
Mm-hmm.
and I left Bangalore like because of some personal reasons, and I moved to Gurgaon,
Mm-hmm.
and I stopped doing those things. And after Gurgaon, I just came here. So I don't have really like personal thing. Like I have not feel them personally like going to meetups. Like you do organize every month meetups and you go there and you
Yeah.
have your personal experience with that. But I have some virtual experience by seeing people tweets and pictures around the world, like from different communities like Chennai RB or Mumbai RB and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pretty good. I mean, I feel really confident about what people are doing. And the great thing is that it's not just about Ruby. Like you recently gave a talk in one of the meetup I remember. I think it's on React.js, which
Right.
is a JavaScript framework, which is pretty cool. Like you have some kind of diversity in your meetup. So if people
Otherwise,
are really, yeah.
after some time it gets pretty boring if you keep on doing the same things.
Yeah, I mean, there are not a lot of things to discuss and stuff. So here in Stockholm, in presentation nights, we basically call most of the people who just want to talk about anything they like. Maybe some kind of if they're building some tool which is not even in Ruby, but that's good for community. They are welcome to talk about that. So which is
Right.
pretty good. Like you should mix things as well.
That's true. All right. And so this is the question like I think which has come up in one or two previous podcasts. This was about the bug match that you had in Bangalore. I think you were there for that bug match, right?
Yes, I was there.
So since you were like you guided at that bug match, what were your experiences with that? I mean, you helped other people out with doing the bug mash, and if someone else wants to do a bug mash, what kind of experiences do you have?
Yes, absolutely. That's pretty good thing to talk about. So first thing, you really need to coordinate with people on the releases because bug mesh is really helpful when Rails or some any kind of product comes out in beta or in
Mm-hmm.
release candidate like RCs. Like at that time, a RC got released for Rails, and I got in touch. Like I got to know like yeah, we should do a bug mash and let's test this out on applications and let's find out issues. If not, let's help an existing issue. And the company I was working with, Castle Rock Research, helped me, and they just allowed me to do a bug mash in Bangalore. And yeah, that even got just started. And I'm very thankful to Prakash Murthy. He was there as well, and he actually I was really new in these like organizing events, and he helped me doing like how you should do that. So we started with stand up, and then we spread in the group, and then every person started working on few issues. There was a IRC we created channel we created like Bug Mash. So
Uh-huh.
if you have something to share on, you can work on that. And then we sync up after 1 hour, and then okay, if you need any help and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. So if anybody wants to start that, you should do that when some release candidate and beta is coming
Uh-huh.
out in a group of people. But you can do bug mash your own daily when you have some
Right.
time to invest on open source.
Cool. That's cool. Good to know. Uh, so another thing which is very good to know or would be better to know from you is about your involvement in open source projects and how. So you mentioned about starting with RVM, but how exactly was your so what exactly got you interested a lot in contributing, and also what other projects do you contribute right now or maintain?
Yes. So for example, Rails. For honesty, I'm not doing Ruby on Rails from like Rails core contribution from last 1.5 months, or basically since 2015 started, because I was in India in January and I was
Yeah.
visiting my parents and I was on vacation, so I did not get a chance to work on. And then when I came back to Stockholm, I was not like feeling very enthusiastic about doing some Rails right now. So I just started doing the open source. I started contributing open source project from Thoughtbot, which I usually do on my Fridays. So we have Friday as an investment day in Thoughtbot. So we work
Okay.
4 days on client projects and stuff, and on Fridays we basically invest our time in either in Thoughtbot products, in Thoughtbot open source projects, or any open source project, or basically whatever you feel is good, you should do
That's
that.
nice.
You should invest your time. So right now I'm working on Hound,
Sounds yeah.
houndci.com. It's an open source project, and it helps you to
That's nice.
to keep your code in style. It's basically comment on your pull request when you have some violations in your CSS, Ruby, JavaScript, CoffeeScript file. So right now I'm working on that, and it's turning on pretty good because we are
Even
trying to
many
make
people, yeah, even many people from India use Hound a lot.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's one of our colleague started in San Francisco office, and it's going pretty good. It's getting bigger, so we need to work on this more because, so for example, if we want to support more languages, how should we do that? If we want to support Go or if we want to support Python, how should we do
Right.
that? So right now
Right
I'm
now,
working with
what does it support right now?
It supports Ruby, JavaScript, SCSS, and CoffeeScript, which is basically typically
All right.
Rails
Yeah.
project includes.
Right.
But people are mentioning and opening an issues on GitHub, say, hey, I want to be support of Go, I want to support on Python and stuff like that. So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to separate out stuff. So right now, every parsing and stuff is happening Hound inside Hound,
Mm-hmm.
like the Rails app, real Rails app. But we are trying to separate out and making it service-oriented architecture, so you can have your own linter or parser, whichever language you want, and Hound will just collaborate with that service and post back to GitHub comments and get the file from the GitHub and stuff like that. So we are trying to make possible to support more languages and even write your own parser if you like to have. So
It's all open source, right?
yeah, it's all open source. It's all open source. You can just go and poke around. Like whatever I'm doing in my local, it's get pushed in every say 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So you can even track my branch, what I'm working on, which I feel is pretty good because yeah, I mean there is nothing to hide. It's all open source and people can come and go. Like people come and say, hey, I wanna. So recently, I can share you one example. I was thinking of migrating to active job because we upgraded down to 4.2, Rails
Uh-huh.
4.2. So before even I was thinking that, one guy pinged me like on GitHub, say, hey, I have this work in progress branch. What do you think about this? Which is basically migrating every jobs to active job. And I was like, wow, this is great. I mean, I was thinking about that, and you got it. So we just work together on one PR and we get it merged.
Mhm.
So that's the great part I like people really want to use and do contribute in
Uh,
open source.
yeah. I mean, I like lots of your projects that you have. The good part about some of the projects that have been open source by Thoughtbot is like the podcast itself. So our site on podcast also runs on the Thoughtbot's Thoughtbot's app for
Ye-
podcast.
Oh, yes, yes, I remember. But now I think we moved away from that and we are using some service because I think Thoughtbot runs 5 or 6 podcasts. So it was
Yeah,
hard to maintain like 5 or 6 applications. So we moved to some service for that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I really like
yeah.
that you're using that app.
So and apart from that, what all other projects do you work on currently?
Mm, yeah, I mean, 4 days we work with clients, so client projects are normally different mixture of technologies. I worked on Ember for 3 months, more than 3.5 months in one of my clients' project, and yeah, I mean it's a mix of technology. But on Fridays, I mostly just work on open source projects. Previously, I used to work on Rails and stuff. Now I'm more doing Thoughtbot related open source work.
Do you maintain any one of those projects right now?
No, I'm not like core maintainer of any of the
Hmm.
project right now, but I just look around and see, oh, if this needs any help, if this needs any upgrade, I just go there and start working on that. But like for example, Hound, I I'm like doing a lot of work now, so with one of the guy here in Stockholm, and I think I will be taking a little bit responsibility on that because I'm doing that part of code because it's not a small feature, it's a big change. So
Right.
I'm not really maintaining, but yeah, I love to be part of most of the projects.
That's that's pretty good to know. Uh, yeah. So the next question is about what kind of setup and tools do you use for your day-to-day work? So this is about like maybe what editor do you use or what is your everyday development workflow?
Sure. So it might sound really silly, but my first editor was NetBeans in 2007 for Ruby on Rails because
You
yeah,
can
I
tell
mean
me it
it's yeah, my
would be
first
nice.
editor was NetBeans. Like I was like, okay, yeah, everybody uses NetBeans here in Delhi. Let's use this. I was not born like I was not in the mood of programming that time. I was like, okay, I have to join my family business, and I should just do it. So that was the start, like doing NetBeans and stuff, and then after I used TextMate, I think, yeah, I used TextMate for a while, and then I started using RubyMine when I was in Bangalore. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen many other people. I used to saw people using Emacs and Vim and stuff. I was like, no man, I was not able to
Very
learn
hard
these
code.
things. These are pretty hard to learn. I'm fine with RubyMine. I can live with it. And then I moved to Stockholm, and here nobody uses tools like RubyMine stuff. People use Vim or
Right.
maybe Emacs. I'm not sure about the Emacs in Thoughtbot, but people use Vim a lot here. A few people use Sublime Text, which they found really helpful, so which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started using Vim when I came here because I liked it, and now I'm a full-time Vim guy. I use Vim as my text editor, and I just write code in Vim. Operating system, I used to use Windows when I was in NetBeans. Then I
Wow.
moved some Unix-based system like Ubuntu, Linux-based system like Ubuntu.
Mm-hmm.
But in Bangalore, well, in Bangalore, I moved to Mac, and till now I'm using Mac OS 10 as an operating system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is the tool I use for programming.
Okay. Uh, the next question that we have is about, so this is something that we like to ask everyone whom we interview, is about how does your company operate, or what all different things happen in your company with regards to maybe communication, the workflow,
Sure.
do you pair program, and what are your different thoughts about those?
Yeah, sure. I want to talk about that as well. So most of the stuff here in Thoughtbot is online. If you look for playbook for Thoughtbot, you'll see
Yeah,
you'll
right.
you can read all of the stuff what we do. Basically, it's all online and public. We basically refer our playbook to our clients as well. Like, hey, if you want to work with us, read this. So it will be very helpful for you, like how we work. But I can talk about things like, so we use Trello most of the time for project management, because we found it's easy to deal with because it has lanes and stuff. So people can see what you're working on right now, what is done, what is not, stuff like that.
Right.
We recently moved to Slack from Campfire, which is cool. We use Basecamp as well for like communication. If something is happening in another office and they want to share with other office, we use Basecamp as a
Mm-hmm.
project for that. So people post in Basecamp what they are doing, and if something great and they want to let other people know. And yeah, so project management, communication.
Do you pair program?
Yes, sometime. Like if I'm dealing with some complex problem, I will ask one guy, "Hey, can you help me?" And he'll just jump on with me on the code. But mostly, if I'm alone working on a client project, I'll not pair program because other guy is also working on a project. So I cannot really sit with him the whole day. But yeah, if a problem is complex, we always go to whiteboard and say, hey, can you help me? Can you just spend 15 minutes with me and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
But on investment day, we do pair program, yes. Like for example, Hound I'm working on right now. So I have one guy with me sitting most of the time, like because it's a complex problem and you need to solve it together. So which is great.
Mm-hmm. And how is the workflow for, let's say you're working on a single project, or maybe someone else is working with you? How is the workflow for development for a project? Like it goes through reviews, and how do all those things happen?
So most of the time, if I'm in a client project and I am the only developer and
Mm-hmm.
there's nobody else in from Thoughtbot, so what we basically do, we basically invite them. So we usually have one advisor as well on the project,
Okay.
which basically takes care for access and stuff like project needs to be created on GitHub, Trello boards, Slack channels, and stuff like that. And so developer don't need to worry about those things. And once it gets started, we basically ask people to create tickets in Trello, cards in Trello, and then it just goes and goes and on. We usually do stand-ups basically with people. If clients are
Right.
interested, we ask them to come in our stand-ups, and And we also do retros every week for very short retro, like 30 minutes retro, or yeah, I mean, try to keep it short basically, and which very helpful retros normally. But if I have a designer as well, then there's a different thinking, like design, because designer people needs to talk a lot with the clients to know what they are actually trying to build and
Right.
stuff like that. So that has a different style of working. We have different paths for that, but for a developer, it's just mostly about feature. Okay, we want this. Okay, let's do this. We
Uh-huh.
use Heroku a lot for deployment because we found this very easy, and client can easily maintain them if they know that this time they're gonna get more load, so they can just scale
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
workers and just go with the traffic, stuff like that. So they don't need to really worry about DevOps and stuff.
Uh, uh,
But I mean, it's totally depend on clients how they want.
how do the reviews happen? How is the review system at Thoughtbot?
You mean you mean
Reviews,
employee review?
code reviews.
Oh, code reviews. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about the employee my review. Yeah, code reviews is strictly required. I mean, code review is really a good thing to have. So everything needs to go with the pull requests. And
Mhm.
if you are working alone on a project and nobody is there for review, we have channels like Code or Dev or a few channels. So you can paste your link there, and hey, you can ask, hey, can anybody, you can just paste the channel with the mention PR in it, and somebody will come up and review your pull requests. So most probably
Nice.
98.99% everything needs to be reviewed, even if it's a very small change. I mean,
That's a
not
that's
just a
pretty
typo,
interesting
but
because anyone from your anyone from the company takes up reviews for a project.
yes. Yeah, so basically, if that repository is under Thoughtbot organization, then everybody can access that PR.
Right.
So they can anytime come and see, oh, hey, this variable now looks good. Why you are doing this and stuff like that. And but if that client repository is not on the Thoughtbot, then we mostly add people who are interested in code reviews. So if they ask, hey, I cannot access this, can you add me? So we just add there, so they can review more PRs for us. So and for smaller reviews, Hound is pretty useful for us. I mean, we don't need to
Yeah.
really worry about those silly mistakes, but for larger code base, like the feature check reviews done by other people, and it's required, you have to do this.
Mm. Uh, yep. So one last. So I think I've run out of questions, and the only questions which are left now are from Twitter. So we'll move on to questions from Twitter. Uh, yeah. So we have one question asking. Uh, This is from Monish. He would like to know what learnings did you have after joining Thoughtbot, and what points can you share which could help other developers?
Yes, that's I wanted to talk about as well. So thanks for asking, Christian. So first thing, as I told before, like I introduced to a new text editor called Vim.
Mhm.
I was scared before using Vim. Like I was not scared, but I was like, no, I think I'm fine with RubyMine and stuff. I can live with it. But here I started using Vim and I liked it. I mean, at least I give it a try, and this is one thing I've learned. Another thing I learned in Thoughtbot is proper TDD and like writing test cases and
Mhm.
spec out everything, writing feature specs properly, and how, I mean, yeah, those things. Because I'm not sure what's the scene right now because it's 2 years. I have not seen people writing code in India because
Mhm.
I'm in Stockholm. But at that time, people are not really tend to write test cases for their applications properly.
Uh,
Here, what I learned a lot is like how you should write your test cases and what are different approaches you should use, why you should not use this thing, why should you use this thing. We have guide for that. I mean, if you want to read there are guides for that. So, which is pretty cool. Like I learned how important test coverage is, and um, doing TDD is really important. So that was the great part I learned here. And yeah, obviously people are really great here. Like I exposed to many other things. Like I learned PGP here. I've never thought of doing encrypting my emails and stuff. So I've learned a lot of things when I came here because people have different mindsets and people are really open to talk about new things here.
Like I would like to know what are your experiences with. There are some pretty great people at ThoughtBot. What are your experiences with those people, or maybe you bumped with something which you saw very exciting with some workman working with someone, or just came about?
Yeah. So for example, our managing director here, Mike Burns, who basically helps Office to run properly, and he's also a programmer, and he's very geeky guy, and he talked about PGP in one of our lightning talks. We do lightning talks every Friday for 15 minutes before going for lunch together. And so that's pretty cool. So he introduced us what is PGP and how it's important in your day-to-day life and stuff like that. And that's the part I like here the most. Like every person, if he's a managing director, if he's a designer, if he's a developer, talks about great thing. Like, I mean, every lightning talk I have attended, or every like development discussion I've attended here is all about learning new things, which is pretty good.
Nice. So I missed this question before. So what this is something that every other consulting company or someone else could learn from about ThoughtBot, or could gain from, is what kind of so as a company to grow, what does ThoughtBot think about in terms of growing? What do you like to focus on? Because I see a lot of open source projects or books or podcasts coming up from ThoughtBot.
Yeah.
So what mentality does ThoughtBot have about all these things?
I think so ThoughtBot also has few products like Hound or Upcase, and so these are mostly come out on investment days and like end of year hack day. So I mean, mostly ThoughtBot wants us to we work on client projects 4 days. I mean, not mostly, like if I have nothing, I will just invest my week on product or books or podcasts or whatever I have, but we'll try to work on client projects to generate revenue, and which helps us to have one investment day, which helps us to work on open source and our products like Hound, Upcase, and a few other. So I think this is what ThoughtBot has in mind. So going forward, like to continue doing this, to keep helping community with open source stuff and giving podcasts, talking with great people, and helping in like tool building like Hound and Upcase, which helps developers to do their job easily. So I think this is the mindset ThoughtBot has right now.
Right. So I think to summarize, I'll end up with one question. What would be a good, like, what would be your message to from your learning from ThoughtBot? What would your message be for, say, a company to grow, as well as a developer? What would be your message for helping out in open source?
Yeah, sure. So I think as a developer, I mean, I think if you are working with any open source technology and your tools include any open source stack, like if you're working with Ruby on Rails, and these are open source, you should try giving back to community. It really feels good, and it's really good to keep community healthy. Like I really like doing those things. So I think that's a pretty good thing for a developer to start with, to giving back community in anyhow, like writing documentations or helping out existing pull requests and issues and stuff. If you're doing a feature which is that will be awesome. So that's one thing. And another thing is keep learning. Basically, keep learning and write good code, not bad code. Follow a few rules. Writing good code helps you later in your life or in your projects. Don't think that you will leave the project and somebody else will fix it for you, because you might ended up somebody else's shit, and then you will think about that. What if that guy has done it properly? So
I think you've experienced this a lot, it seems.
yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that if you do it properly and follow rules, which is good for everybody, for the project as well, for the client as well, and for the coming next developer as well. And yeah, I mean, and for the companies, I don't have that much to say, but I think you should companies should allow their developers and other people to invest their time in good things other than client works. If they're consulting, they should. It's really good model, and
Right.
people learned a lot of things from these activities. So yeah.
All right. So we are running out of time. So I would like to thank you for making time for this interview. Also, so this is one last question. Anytime soon that you think you'll be visiting India again?
I'm not sure about that because I just came in January, but yeah, most probably in the next 6 months. I'll be missing RubyConf India this year again. I'm so sorry about that, but yeah, next time when I will be in India, I will be visiting Bangalore, most probably Pune. I'm not sure about that, but yeah,
Nice.
maybe in 6 months, not very soon. So yeah, and thanks for having me on podcast. It was really nice talking to you people and to your team as well. Thanks a lot. Thanks
Thanks a
again.
lot. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for making your time.
Okay. Talk to you soon then. Bye.
Yep.